everybody. Welcome to Dive Deep. I'm Shelby Cornett, and I'm the ministry assistant at Cambridge City Christian Church. And this is Danny, and it's Holy Week.
It's Holy Week. Yeah. It's a busy week
Yeah.
for us on the staff.
Yeah.
But it's it's the most important week, I guess you could say, of the Christian calendar.
I think, though, that this is the first Easter week since I've been here. I don't feel stressed.
Yeah. Good for you.
That's why I'm the assistant.
I've got a lot going on this week. We've got, of course, 2 Sunday morning services. We've got I'm just thinking of the messages I have to do. Now I have a funeral. That's Thursday. I got called today that they needed me to do the Good Friday breakfast, so I've got a message Friday to do. And then 2 services. Well,
3 Sunday.
And then sunrise service, yeah. So, I've got 4 messages I'm working on. I've gotten a couple of them done, but we're getting there. But it's a little stressful, but it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
So I guess I'm the only one that's not stressed.
Yeah, well, good for you.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to change that. We need to find something.
You got 3 hours to give me something to do.
Well, okay. We'll find something.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the sermon from Sunday.
Yeah.
And we're still between 2 trees.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be the last week, right?
This Sunday, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the tree in between.
The tree in between.
Which is the cross.
The cross, yeah. There are multiple places in the New Testament where the cross is referred to as the tree.
Mm-hmm.
The Apostle Paul liked using that phrase a lot. And so through the series, we talked about the tree in the Garden of Eden, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the tree of life that was there. 2 trees, actually, in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next week, we talked about how because of the choice to choose the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that Adam and Eve were told not to touch, then we had a shadow over the tree of death, and that's what we did last week.
Yeah.
And then this Sunday, we talked about the tree in between 2 trees, and that's Jesus. And isn't it kind of interesting that we see trees, again, popping up at very important and pivotal moments.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no more pivotal moment
and
in the history of the world.
About that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it continues, and we'll talk about that this Sunday with the Tree of Life. But it's very, very interesting. One thing I shared Sunday was, of course, we're celebrating Jesus' resurrection this Sunday. We remember that the first garden was the Garden of Eden, and then Jesus resurrected in a garden tomb. So that wasn't by accident. God is using that symbolism, which he uses a lot throughout the Bible.
Death in a garden and life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So pretty cool how God does that, isn't it? Yeah. And when we did the series, The Story, we saw a lot of that too. I know you're doing that with your life group right now. And there's a lot of neat stuff in there about symbolism and whatnot. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's cool how God does it.
How the point of that message was a tree that seemed dead has burst forth with life.
Yeah.
So I pictured like a tree in my yard that's just completely.
Yeah. This is a good time of year to think of that with spring,
gone.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All winter it looks dead, and you're like, okay, is it going to come back to life? And then,
and like you don't expect it, and then and that's kind of how it was with Jesus. Like you're like, oh, it's
yeah. Well, yeah, it was this dead piece of wood that they had cut and turned into a cross, but from that came life for all of us, and it's really, really neat to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. Yeah, it was a very interesting message this week. I really enjoyed it, and this week's message is pretty cool too. It is a little challenging this week. Obviously, we're celebrating Easter, and I'm going to be talking about what happens at the end of time in Revelation.
Yeah.
But there's actually some connections there, so we'll get into that Sunday. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I also thought I talked to you about this earlier.
Yeah.
That we could maybe walk through Holy Week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Since
kind of what the events were.
Yep, and we're right in the middle of it.
Yeah. So, the events of Holy Week are in some ways a little hard to follow. I mean, you have Palm Sunday. We just celebrated that last week. And then there are other circumstances and instances of things that happen on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. There's a lot of different events. There's actually a book that I got when I was in Bible college years ago that was called The Harmony of the Gospels. And I would suggest to anybody that really wants to know the exact timeline, it's a really good write, because what it does, it has, trying to describe it, there's 4 columns in it with just pure scripture. And what people have done, what the author has done, is he sat down and he's looked at how those scriptures work chronologically.
Okay.
So there are some places where there's gaps, like the book of Mark especially doesn't deal with certain things in the biblical in the Gospels. Sometimes John talks about it, nobody else talks about it. So there are gaps in these columns sometimes, but it's kind of neat to see how it all works. And that would probably be the best place to go if you want to get a really good line on how things happen. Now, obviously, it could be a little bit off because the authors weren't there and didn't see exactly. But there's pretty good internal evidence within the scripture of how these things played out. So I would definitely look it up. You may even be able to just look at it online. It's called The Harmony of the Gospels. I think there's several versions of it written by different people. So I would definitely suggest that. But looking at the larger events of the week, obviously you had Palm Sunday, and then on Thursday was Maundy Thursday, and that's when Jesus had the Last Supper, the Passover supper, and they were eating together, and that's when Jesus instituted communion. Judas betrayed Jesus later. Jesus is then goes out to pray in the garden, where he is, where he's captured by the authorities after being betrayed by Judas. He's put on trial late at night, and then, of course, on Friday is when he's put on the cross. So things happen pretty quickly, if you think about it. I think that sometimes I've been guilty of thinking of these events as, having some time, but really there wasn't. I mean, it was from the evening. You think about it, within one day, all these things happen. He's arrested. He's questioned by both Pilate and Herod. He's nailed to the cross. I mean, a lot of things happen within about a 18-hour period. So it's
I can imagine, like, with all of that happening so fast, the 3 days it took for him to rise probably felt so long for people.
Yeah. But you have to remember, though, and I'm doing a devotion with our church, and I'd encourage anybody to check those out this week. Travis did a good job pulling those together. You got to remember, though, that even though he said he was going to be resurrected, I don't know that really anybody thought much about that, because when you look at the resurrection accounts, they act like they're shocked and surprised. So that tells you that they didn't really think that this whole thing was going to happen. So, it was a long period of time, but they didn't know that it was going to be. They thought he was dead, like, just like we would be after someone we love dies. So, there was a lot of things that happened there within a few days, right? You go from the elation of Good Friday, or not Good Friday, of Palm Sunday, to the sadness of Good Friday, and then back to the elation of the resurrection.
In 7 days.
Yeah, talk about our roller coaster week. Yeah.
It was so cool. My kids, after church Sunday, they had little donkeys that they had done.
Yeah.
And I said, "What is that? What's that donkey?" And Jackson said, "Jesus rode a donkey."
Yes.
Like,
yeah, he
did.
Yeah. It's really a very interesting story, and I'd encourage anybody to look for. I mentioned Sunday The Chosen is a really good series. Although The Chosen isn't fully done with the life of Jesus yet, they're only into a couple of seasons. They haven't
Where is that at?
You can go to. They have a website.
Okay.
You can check out where you can view it at and whatnot. It's kind of a crowd-funded thing.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if they charge you to watch it, but they do ask for donations because it's crowd-funded. And then there are other ones that have been out there through the last 10 years even. Well, obviously the one is Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that.
Oh, you need to see it. You need to be prepared for it. It's a little, it's very intense. Very interesting. It's done all in Aramaic,
Mm-hmm.
so there's subtitles. But it's a very powerful. Yeah, you need to check that out,
Yeah.
Shelby. Yeah.
I've thought about it forever. I
Mhm.
just haven't
Yeah. Yeah.
done it.
Yeah, that one, that's the big one. But there's been some other ones. Son of God was a movie that came out here a while back. There was a mini series on History Channel, I think, called AD. Trying to remember, maybe that was it. There were several. There was the Bible miniseries too that had it in there. I mean, there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, view media out there you can watch.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to kind of watch all that this week.
Yeah.
So
Do some
yeah.
reflection.
yeah, hmm
Cool.
yeah. So this Sunday we'll talk about the resurrection and the tree
Mhm.
of life. So
The big one.
yeah,
The big Sunday.
the big Sunday,
Yeah.
the good Sundays.
Not the Super Bowl.
Not Super Bowl. Now that's like nothing compared to this Sunday.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
So next week we will talk about the final Between Two Trees sermon and Easter, and we'll see you next week.